Hi everyone, my name's PK. Here I have Edmund Pang, who's an engineer based in Perth, and he's bought 4 properties, 1 principal place of residence, 3 investment properties. Very proud to call him a client of the Property Investment Accelerator. In this episode, we'll go through his background, his maybe a few mistakes or things that he thinks he could have done better, how he's actually capitalized on the current Perth boom. He's recently bought a property just 6 months ago, which has gone up $70,000, from 470 to 540. He would talk through suburbs or talk through a lot of tips and trick, his best advice for people wanting to emulate his success. And I think, I've just been talking with Edmund before we hit record, and really nice guy as well. So stick around, and I'm sure you guys will be really inspired and get a lot of benefit out of it. Welcome to the Oz Property Investment Mastery Podcast. My name's PK, and I help busy people build passive income by buying top 5% growth and cash flow property and build a portfolio using data without wasting months doing research, spending weekends at inspection or catching flights, or dropping $10,000 to $20,000 on buyer's agents every single time. So if you're confused, lack confidence, and just overwhelmed with all the information and marketing misinformation available online and don't know where to start, then this show is for you. Thank you so much, Edmund. I know we've been exchanging lots of emails over many months, but it's great to finally to meet you like this.
No, thank you, guys. It's an honor to be here, meeting you, in person. And yeah, I just want to say, your course has been immensely valuable for me. It's provided a lot of clarity in the property investing space. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for what you taught, all of us. And I highly recommend it to anyone.
Thank you so thanks so much off the bat. And I just want to, I just want to read out what Edmund had responded when someone wants to do the course. And I don't want this call to be or this video to be about the course itself per se, but when someone does want to do the course, they go on the website and they book a call and they're asked to answer a specific question. I just want to read out Edmund's answer, which he did this in 2023, just to give you his mindset and his kind of dilemma before doing the course, or the reason he wanted to do the course. So the question is, why do you need the Property Investment Accelerator? We asked that question, and his answer was really long and detailed, but I just give you a quick summary. He said, I've always been extremely interested in property myself and currently hold a principal place of residence and an investment property, bought with very little knowledge about properties with my partner. The issue I have is that there is an abundance of information and hundreds of podcasts online, and I've listened to a lot of these to the point where my mind is spinning with information. My friend had initially bought your course and rated it very highly. Main reason for this is that the course is data driven. Not a lot of buyers agents actually work with data instead of using their own knowledge. As such, I'd like to dive straight into the course and be able to confidently pick out good deals and generate a passive income, because let's face it, the 9 to 5 is old news and humans should not be at a desk 10 plus hours a day. Amen to that. Technology is supposed to make us work less, but instead it seems to be going the opposite way. Lastly, I believe the money spent on this course will be negligible once I increase my passive income. And who knows, this might be the best 6K I'll ever spend. So I loved your answer to that question. I could see that, you'd obviously been trying, you'd obviously been like spinning your wheels, you'd obviously, created a resolve to do property investing properly. I want to touch on, you'd already bought your principal place of residence and your first investment property before doing the course. What years did you do that? And what was like, how did you start investing, or how did you start buying property? Like, what's your background? How did you get into all this in the first place?
Yeah, look, I think the earliest memory of it was basically growing up. Um, we moved a few times. So when we first got to Perth, I think we probably moved about 4 times. So my parents had sort of bought properties and then sold it, moved on, bought property, sold it, and I think they did hold, a couple of investments here and there. And I think that was the earliest signs of property for me. I never understood it at the time, obviously, but that was sort of normal to me, for them to constantly move and buy property. So I think that was sort of maybe that was what was sort of prompted me to be passionate about property. But to answer your question, the first property I bought was actually I built it in 2019. So the quick pre-COVID, I bought the land in 2018, and I knew I always wanted to buy property. I think as soon as I started working full time, it was the first thing on my mind to save up and buy property. Obviously, I didn't know anything about property, so yeah, I didn't know what a good location was, and what the how important land value was and whatnot. So I went looking around, obviously with my parents for advice as well. Given that I saw them as they did buy and sell properties. Yeah, so they basically I went to look around and I saw a piece of land that was cheap. I could afford it. I bought it in 2020 for $160,000, which is unheard of nowadays.
Mhm.
And I built it in 2019. So that property has given me quite a fair bit of equity since then, and it sort of helped me sort of accelerate my investing process. And then the second property was in 2022. So that was also before I did your course. I actually engaged a buyer's agent for that one, only because obviously I've heard about it through podcast. I found out what a VA was. So yeah, I engaged a buyer's agent, and we managed to get property in Perth as well, and that sort of became my principal place of residence. Um, from there, yeah,
Right, right. And so you're at this point where you've got one investment property, you've used the buyer's agent to buy that second one, which is your
right.
principal place of residence. And I notice in your answer to this question, coming back to this, you're saying that your mind is spinning with information. There's hundreds of podcasts online. You listen to a lot of them. I guess my question is, why did you decide to do the course when A, you'd already used a buyer's agent? So presumably you're somewhat familiar with the process, maybe you're a little bit more confident than before. Even before using the buyer's agents, you'd actually bought land and built yourself. So, it's not like you're totally inexperienced. And plus, you'd consumed all this free content, whether it's from Facebook groups or audio podcasts or YouTube, this and that. Like, didn't you feel that you already had enough intel?
No. So like I said, like I've had consumed so much information that it was just sort of confusing. I didn't know what to look for, what was important. Like I sort of understood the market a little bit, and I guess what makes a good house. Like obviously the obvious thing was you don't buy on a main road. But it still wasn't clear to me. And I knew that I was passionate about property. So I just thought, having talked to one of my mate who'd done the course, yeah, you highly recommend it, and I was like, you know what, this is the way I want to go, to retire early and be financially free. So yeah, I decided to do the course, and yeah, I'm so glad I did it because it's just again like data driven is important for me because obviously as an engineer, our mind is just we love spreadsheets, right? So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me, buying based on numbers. And so that was very sort of, compelling for me, and I decided to do the course.
Right, right. And an obvious question as well, you'd used a buyer's agent. Why didn't you just use that same buyer's agent again? Because I think you were saying they saved you time last time, right?
Yeah, look, I had an okay experience, right? So the buyer's agent was good, and I think the way it works is if you engage a BA, I think anyway, but when you engage a BA and you're trying to buy your principal place of residence, they sort of go, by your lead. So you tell them the property that you want them to inspect and whatnot, and it just sort of felt like engaging a third person to help out with inspections and whatnot.
Mhm.
So he was a good guy. He knew what he was doing. But I guess I just wanted to do it myself, and it was expensive. Like at the time, it wasn't too bad. I think I paid about $7,000. Obviously,
Not too bad at all for a advisor agent.
by half the price of what it is now. So yeah, at the time, it was quite expensive to me. I was like, if it's 7 grand per purchase, that's a lot of money. So yeah, I just sort of decided to yeah, take matters into my own hand really. And I knew I was passionate about property, so yeah, I knew this was something that I wanted to do.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I want to ask you this question because you've got 4 now, 2 after the course, and we'll get into those in a second. But in terms of, like, borrowing capacity, like, these days, especially with interest rates higher, everyone's kind of like, "How are these people buying, like, 4 properties, 5 properties, 6 properties, 7 properties?" Of course, you need income, like, there's no substitute for good income. But in terms of your experience, has it been difficult to get a loan from the banks? Have you used multiple banks? Have you gone I know these are a lot of questions, but have you gone, like,
Got it.
interest only or principal and interest? What's been your lending experience or experience and your lending strategy?
Okay, so it hasn't been too bad. So I've actually got a. I'm quite fortunate to know to build a relationship with one of the bankers from NAB. And so I met her through a phone. I think I was looking for a loan. I met her, and then yeah, we just had a very good sort of working relationship. So I dealt with her. Um, I just want to add as well. I had a bad experience with a broker the first time. So the first property I bought, I went with a broker that was recommended by a builder. Obviously, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just sort of went with the flow, basically. And I just felt like the brokers, as soon as they sign you up, they just neglect you, and you're just gone. That's it. You never hear from them.
Mhm.
So I had a bad experience. So I was like, no, I'm not going to use a broker anymore. No, that's just it's no good. Um, so yeah, obviously I went with NAB. I built a relationship with a banker, and she was able to help me get loans quite quickly. I think my principal place of residence, I got unconditional within 2 days.
Mm.
So it was just a matter of acting quick. She knew that I was reliable, and we got my loan. So yeah, so the first two properties was under my name, and then the third property was under my partner's name, and then the fourth property is under my name. And I'm at a point where I'm almost capped out. So the next property will be under a trust,
Right.
which I'm looking for at the moment. But all in all, it hasn't been too bad. It's just I think I'm fortunate enough as well to have equity, number one, and also to have yeah, a fairly high income. I think that really helps as well. And I think that the one thing people can change is your income. You can work hard and move on and try to increase your income. That's what you can change.
Mhm.
And I think I was fortunate in that sense.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because, as you know, Edmund, I generally recommend using a mortgage broker, but your experience has been great dealing directly with the bank. Did you do your own homework in terms of like, oh, hey, NAB is offering this product, whether it's offset account or this interest rate or these benefits? Did you do your own homework in terms of what the other banks are providing or what the tier two banks are providing, tier three banks are providing? Or maybe as a subsequent question to that, is that what you're gonna do from this point on? Because if you're nearing capping out your borrowing capacity, then maybe a mortgage broker will be able to get you another 2 properties, with a 2nd tier, 3rd tier lender, like, do you know I'm sort of getting at?
Yeah, yeah, spot on. So I did do my research. I knew that you could call the bank and ask for a point 0.5 reduction in the interest rates. So I think the banks, yeah, I called up multiple times. Did try to get a reduction in interest rate. So I think I would step through a few times. Um, and I would ask them around, make what interest rate they were on and whatnot. So I did do my research, but I've actually recently engaged a mortgage broker.
Okay, there you
See,
go.
this was about 2 months there, so I forgot to add that. So I do have a mortgage broker now who, you know, my perspective has changed about mortgage brokers. So he was able to restructure my loan because all of it. all of my previous loans were with NAB. That's not a bad thing, but it just means that all your valuation is with one bank. So having engaged a mortgage broker, he had basically refinanced my loan. He restructured it, and he said basically get onto a trust, which is what I've done. And yeah, and now I've got pre-approval. I'm ready to go for my fourth investment property. So that has been good. It's been good. I do recommend a broker.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's pros and cons of each, and it was great that you used the bank manager because I think sometimes relationships, if you have this kind of old school relationships with a bank manager, or relationship manager, then they can be just as good as using a broker. But I guess for the average person who doesn't have like a deep, long-standing relationship, then a broker could be the best option. With this decision to use a trust, just if you don't mind, for everyone's benefit, why are you choosing a trust for this next one? Is it that you can't borrow any more money if it was under your personal names, or is it some other reason?
Yeah. So I think I might be able to probably get one more under my personal name, and so that this was something that my accountant and my broker had recommended to me. So he said that it was sort of a good time to switch into it. If
Mhm.
you can borrow one more, it's a good time to switch into a trust, and that will sort of preserve your borrowing capacity. That's probably the main reason. Obviously, I wish to obviously build a large portfolio. I think the second reason was just for tax purposes, I guess, if you will. Obviously, you can on a higher income, it's hard to when you see your tax, you know, uh, almost like someone else's salary, right? So it's money that you never get back, you know. So I think going into a trust, obviously, you can distribute your income, and I guess benefit from that. So yeah, a tax benefit. So that's probably the second reason that second main reason I've gone into a trust.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That that's good to know. I think people I don't know if this is a fair statement, but I think these days people are more open now to considering alternative ownership structures just because borrowing capacity is more difficult than what it used to be, 4, 5, 6 years ago. So I think it's important to at least have, like you did, to have that conversation with your broker and accountant, perhaps in unison, to see what the best strategy is going forward. And then coming to your third purchase, which was in Perth, that your investment property, second investment property at this point. This was the first one through the course. Perth was you bought this, I think, in October, if I'm not mistaken, October last year. Very difficult market. Perth is just straight fire. It's really difficult to purchase in Perth, and you got this under 500K. It was a terrific yield, and obviously this one's gone up, not just some arbitrary bank valuation, but in real terms, like in reality, it's gone up 70,000 already in a matter of, I think 6 or 7 months. What's maybe some words of advice or some, I don't want to use the word hacks, or some tips that you can give to someone right now who's trying to enter into the Perth market but is missing out on properties? Maybe they put on 5 offers, but they kept being rejected. They're not hearing back from sales agents. They're feeling a bit discouraged. I don't know if this was the case with your experience or not, but what's some words of wisdom from your experience that you can give to people that are failing?
Sure. Yeah. So the third, the second investment property that I bought in Perth, I think the main highlight here is speed. So as soon as the property came on the market, I had sat down and I just assessed it straight away. And I've done a TMA, and it's hard. You can't get a property in Perth if you put down your CMA. It just doesn't work that way unless obviously you're lucky and you get an off market and it worked out well for you. But if it's on the market, I guarantee you there are multiple offers. Um, so uh, so you have to I sort of offered slightly over my CMA, but I think the main thing was speed. I was able to assess the property quickly. I called the agent straight away, asked a few questions. He sent through a video of the property and some photos. And obviously being a high risk investor, I went up the videos and the photos. And I just placed an offer straight away. He brought that to the sellers, and fortunate enough, I think, if I remember right, I think there might have been another offer, and I counted, and I managed to secure that offer on that day. Got it signed on that day. So I think speed is an important one. It just so happened that the sellers were desperate to sell. And so yeah, the stars aligned, and I went straight for it.
Right.
And I think that's sort of what you have to do in Perth. It's a really, really hot market, and most properties don't even make it to home open. So when the property does come out, sort of jump straight onto it and accept it, do your CMA, and then go for it.
Yeah, and I think on that point of doing your CMA, for those of you who don't know, it's a comparable market analysis, and there's lots of websites, paid and free, that give you like a range or a predictive kind of analysis on what this property is valued at. And in my experience, all of those websites, whether it's RP Data or CoreLogic or free ones off bank websites, they're all rubbish. Like especially in a hot market, in a swiftly moving market, if you're relying on automated valuation techniques, then they're just going to be really wrong. They're going to be very low. Even in normal markets, they're not that accurate the best of times. So what Edmund is alluding to here is actually doing that CMA yourself, looking at not just the quantitative side of things, which is like, how many bedrooms, the age of the property, the block size, but also the qualitative side of things, views, which side of the street it's on, the renovation standard, the quality of the house, the build of the house, etc. There's, a suite of factors to look at. And then you can actually ascertain, this is actually what that property is worth. But as Edmund is saying as well, even if once you do that in a swiftly moving market, you still can miss out on property. So you need to index up, like you need to rely on comparables that are like 1 week old. You can call different agents and say, oh, look, I see that property's just sold. Can give me a ballpark of how much it went for. They may not give you the exact number because they don't have to, but that, you can get a sense and you can be like, all right, well, I think this property is worth about 550. I'm just making this hard. I know you go for 470 and this property is worth 550, but it's a hot market. I'm gonna give, 560, 570, and by the time you settle in 30 days, 60 days, chances are, I mean, right now in Perth, it's pretty much guaranteed that that property is gonna be worth more by the time you settle
Yeah.
anyway. So definitely be quick to the chase and definitely don't lowball. That's not gonna help anyone. My question to you, Edmund, is, I mean, you're based in Perth. Why and you bought this as if you were an interstate investor, like, you relied on the video walkthrough and their due diligence through, on the ground property manager, etc. Why don't you just jump in your car and inspect it yourself?
Well, I guess number one, I guess it was never going to make it home open. And I knew they were going to get multiple offers. So it's an 845 square meter block. So it's a large block. So I knew that it was something that a lot of people wanted. Why didn't I get in my car? I guess I just wanted to. 'Cause I just knew I needed to act quick. If I put a lot of conditions on it and says I want to go for an inspection and whatnot, I think I would have lost it. So long story short, I think I just wanted to act quick. So I just used the technique that I was taught, and I just went straight for it. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Um, yeah.
Brilliant. That's cool to hear. I mean, I do the same when I bought in Brisbane, even though I used to live in Brisbane, I never saw the property. I don't get anything from seeing it myself. There's nothing that I can do that a property manager or building and pest inspector, etc., can't do.
Yeah.
In fact, they'll do it much better than me. And I think right now, if anyone's trying to buy in Perth or Greater Perth area, then you need to be like an educated investor. I don't think anyone can be successful just coming off the street with no prior experience in property and be successful in buying at the right price, the right property in the right suburb in Perth. I don't think that's possible. You need to be educated because, like you said, you did the analysis as soon as it came on. You did the analysis real quick. You knew what you were looking for, how to quickly eliminate properties, and I think that's the credit that you deserve. And so, your next property, the one down in the Bunbury area, Was that easier, or did you learn anything from the previous experience to make that more seamless, or it's like it's a completely new deal, case by case, or how was that experience?
Look, I think it was roughly the same. So Bunbury was, and it is very hot, at the time. So this was a combination of acting quick and having a relationship with the agent. So this was an agent that I had called multiple times every week. Not multiple times, like probably once a week. For several weeks. And I'm asking for free market, off market properties, building a relationship. Sort of trying to get any off market deals that he may have. So he knew who I was. And I think I may have offered him. I think I may have given an offer for one of his properties, but what? So he knew that I was serious and I knew what I was doing. So when this property came out, I did my assessment on it, and I knew it was a good property. I went straight for it. I called him up, and I was like, "Hey, look, in all seriousness, I want this property. Can you send me a video? Can you send me photos?" And he did that. Same thing. I went up the videos. I went up photos, and I submitted an offer. And because he knew I was serious, um, it was a little bit dodgy. So he had actually told me the other offer. Um, and he basically said, "Look, if you give me 450, we'll call it a deal." And I negotiated that. He counted back again, and I just said, "Yeah, look, 450, let's do it." And I got it signed on that day as well. So it was a combination of knowing the agent, he knew I was serious, and acting quick as well. That got me that property. So I secured it for $450,000,
Yeah.
and it's a 720 square meter block, and it's about, I think it's about 3 minutes, or so, not even probably a minute drive to the water.
Right. And what are the yields on these 2 properties? Do you remember?
I think the Gosnell one had a existing tenant who was slightly lower, but we had increased the rent at the moment. So we were renting for 460 at the time. I think the yield would probably be about, yeah, probably about 5.5. But now that we've obviously increased the rent, it's sitting at 6.3, and the Oxford and house here was 6% when I bought it. And we've increased the rent as well on that, and I think that's somewhere in 6.5 point
Right.
percent.
Right, right. And guys, anyone who's watching or listening, don't rush off to buy in these suburbs per se. Now, I'm not saying this is the right buying window anymore. There's always a good time to buy in a suburb, and then a time to just let it consolidate, relax, and then maybe in the future buy again. So don't just everyone rush off. I mean, you can, and you just give Edmund lots of capital growth. I'm not complaining with that either. On the point of relationships, a lot of people say that there's no way that a DIY investor can compete with the relationships that a buyer's agent, let's say, has built over many months, over many years of, buying in a particular location. What would you say to that based on your experience in this Bunbury transaction?
Yeah, look, it's not hard, I think. So going back to why I used a BA, at the time I thought off-market property was a thing, like, it was some sort of exclusive people get their sort of deals. But little did I know, it's just a matter of basically, calling agents and building a relationship. And you basically get the same thing as what a BA would get. It's just a matter of, calling them, being nice to them. And they're busy people. So, don't call them multiple times a week, but, at least once a week or even emails.
Yeah.
And then you build this relationship, and, it's not hard. It's just anyone can do it. And yeah, you just gotta put time aside and make it happen, yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy, like from a marketing perspective, and I don't mean to be cynical here, but it's so easy for a buyer's agent to say, look, there's no way someone can compete with the professionals. We do this day in, day out. We have, all these sales agents on speed dial. And, as a newbie property investor, even I would think, yeah, look, that sounds perfectly logical. Like there's no way that I can compete when these guys are professionals. But when you actually do end up doing it, like in your experience, Edmund, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of precedents here where it's like, no, actually anyone can do it. Of course, it's not going to be on the first phone call, right? But like you did, you called them every week for several weeks and you put in the work and you got that deal done. And oftentimes the
Mm,
best way to build a relationship with the agent is actually to miss out on a property because then they're like, oh, like you said, Edmund seemed really efficient, he seemed professional, he seemed like a nice guy. I didn't win on that property, but now I have him in the back of my mind, and if something comes up, I'll remember him, or if he contacts me again, then there's that kind of history already, and I'll try to give him a leg up. In a hot market, real estate agents really own the game, it's really up to them
right.
who wins the property, so it's the relationship game is as important as suburb selection in my mind, and it can be done very easily by the DIY investor.
100%. I think it's
Um,
just a matter of being prepared as well. So have your questions ready before the phone call and just just sound professional, and I think having done your course as well, sometimes the real estate agents actually see me as a BA. They go, "Hey, are you a buyer agent?" And I go, "No, I'm just an amateur investor." So just be professional, know what questions you're gonna ask, and just be direct because these agents, they're extremely busy. They get
mm,
hundreds of phone calls a day.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, great advice. And so what's your plan going forward, Edmund? You've got these 4 properties, 3 investments, you're gonna buy the next one in a trust. Do you already have a location in mind, or what's your strategy going forward?
Yeah, so at the moment, obviously a lot of my property, all of them are in WA. So obviously 3 in Perth, including the PPOR, and then 1 in regional Bunbury, which was just to diversify the portfolio. So the next one I'm looking for is actually over east in Queensland, in regional Queensland. It's a very hot market there as well. In fact, it might be actually worse than Perth, only because there's barely any listing that had more than 550 square meters. But the plan is to diversify and go over east and hopefully secure one there,
Yeah.
and keep going with the journey
Brilliant, brilliant.
thereafter.
That's really good to hear. And in terms of like your partner, like, are they on board with your journey? Do you guys make decisions together, or do you spearhead it? How does that dynamic work?
Yeah, look, I probably lead it, but yeah, she's very supportive. Um, she probably sick of all the spreadsheets that I show her about how we can get passive income in 10 years and whatnot. But she's on board with it. She understands it. She understands why we're doing it. And sometimes we have to sort of you know practice delayed gratification and whatnot. But she's definitely on board with it and very supportive. And I guess I'm grateful as well that she is supportive. But I consult her before buying a property, show it to her, make sure it's logical because sometimes you get this tunnel vision. You're in your own little world, so it's good to get like a fresh pair of eyes.
Well, does she challenge you? Is she like, Edmund, I think you've made a mistake there, or this makes no sense to me? Do you guys have that conversation?
Yeah, she does, she does. But usually I can counter with the reasoning.
It's good.
But yeah, she does completely oblivious to property. She's also somewhat passionate about it as well. She's obviously not as passionate as me, but she does know a few things. So she'll tell me if it's a red flag. She'll tell me if it's stupid. And if I'm just rushing and trying to get one for the sake of getting one. So I do consult her, and she's definitely on board with it. And yeah, we have a goal together to secure many more and hopefully yeah, retire early
Yeah.
or be financially free. I would say.
That's what it's all about. And coming back to your initial answer on the call, humans are not made to be stuck in front of a computer for 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And I know some people love their jobs and that's great for them, but yeah, we should have at least the option not to do it because no one can do that for their entire lifetimes. Second last question for me. You're based in Perth. Obviously, there's a lot of activity in Perth at the moment from a property in a housing market perspective. What's your sense on the ground in terms of the broader economy? People oftentimes on the East Coast, they think that in Perth, everyone is monitoring iron ore prices, and as soon as they come down, then everyone gets jittery, or that it's still a mining town. Everyone has their opinion, right? But what are you seeing on the ground? I know you were mentioning before that you guys are getting your first Starbucks, but beyond that, like, are you seeing the economy, is the sentiment quite buoyant there, or what's your thoughts?
Look, it definitely changed a lot over the years. If you actually go in the city, you see a lot of new buildings coming up, a lot of new skyscrapers coming up, and a lot of different activities, and it changed a lot. It's definitely become a lot more livelier. And like you mentioned, we're getting our first Starbucks in 2024. So that's very revolutionary for us. And yeah, it's honestly changing a lot. And I think iron ore prices, yeah, a lot of people do focus on that, but if you look at the numbers, look if you look at the numbers of supply versus demand, it is decreasing on a weekly basis. I think we probably only have about 3 weeks left of supply on the market. Um, it's hard to come back from that. So it, I think we're very much in a sort of boom stage, and yeah, we're simply not building enough houses. I think I would listen to a podcast in Perth. I think we're building something around $15,000 houses a year. That's probably half of what we actually need.
Yeah.
So yeah, Perth as a whole, it is changing a lot. There's a lot livelier, lot more things to do. A lot of franchise from over east that's opening up here as well. And yeah, you can really sort of see that it's moving quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity. I know a lot of people think that they've missed out on the WA housing boom, but of course, you need to be very prudent and not buy at the top of the
Mhm.
market. But I don't see this market correcting in a big way anytime soon. All markets correct, after every boom, there's always a period of consolidation, but I don't think that's happening in a big way anytime soon in Perth, and so it presents a fantastic opportunity. And I loved your answer once again. Just to conclude this episode, I want to read out what you said in terms of why you're investing in the first place. You're saying, Edmund, that you want to buy back our time as soon as possible to do the things that really matter in life, as simple as reading a book on a Wednesday morning at a cafe, or waking up knowing that you don't have to work. I think that really is what inspires me to mentor and help people. And it's such a how do I say? When I get emails from people like you, Edmund, sharing their success, it really does put a smile on my face, because it's a lot of hard work from my perspective, but then you get that feedback loop, and it's really satisfying. So just really want to congratulate you and your partner for everything that you've achieved, and putting your trust in me, of course, as well. That takes a bit of a leap of faith sometimes. And maybe last cheeky question, you know, um, for someone who's kind of on the fence of doing the course, they're like, "Ah, look, yeah, it's kind of expensive, right? Like $6,000 for a course, really? Like, it's a lot of money. Is it really gonna work? Is Edmund a paid actor?" All these things that run through people's minds, like, just from your honest experience. You don't have to say whether they should or should not do the course, but maybe the better question is, how should they think about that? Instead of, like, being emotional, how should they critically, think about that decision?
Uh, yeah, look, it's really just changing your mindset. I think a lot of people do sort of ask me, because a lot of people do know that I sort of buy property, so they sort of ask me, oh, where's a good place to buy? And I go, uh, you know, it's important to educate yourself first. The wild word out there, there's a lot of information. So it's important to sort of change your mindset, educate yourself. But I guess in terms of your course, it definitely provides a lot of clarity. Having consumed a lot of content, it can be overwhelming, and you hear different, YouTube videos of people saying this suburb is good, that suburb is good. Um, but I guess the course just sort of lock that in and provide that clarity on what to buy. So I do highly recommend it to everyone. I think the best thing you can do is to educate yourself. And that way, you can't be sort of lied to or scammed in that sense. Um, and once you educate yourself, you can take that with you forever. It's in your head, and you just get more experience, and you just do this carried on. And like I said in my comment, $1,000 is negligible now that, properties have gone up, uh, you know, uh, you know, a combined of 100,000 or dollars or more per year. So it's, yeah, it's important, I think, to educate yourself.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think the great thing about it is that we have in our community, more than 1,200 members, just like yourself, Edmund. And so for people who need support, of course, I'm there, but then there's something to be said about peer to peer support where people are going through that idea, that fire of ordeal. Of course, I can say whatever I want to say, but
Mm.
I'm not necessarily in the same stage as a lot of my members. And so by hearing each other's stories and they actually help each other, and so that's a really supportive and an important part of the cause community, I feel. But anyway, I won't take up too much of your time. Edmund, thank you so much for making time. I want to congratulate you, and of course I'm looking forward to everything that will unfold in your property journey in the future as well.
No, thanks, Ego. Appreciate your time. It's an honor to be here.
And thank you everyone for listening. It's also an honor for me for you to, tune in and listen or watch my content. I really appreciate it. There's more than 120 of these client interviews on my client results playlist on YouTube. And like I always say, I honestly don't mind if you do my course or don't do my course, but at least make some time to go through those episodes because people like Edmund will really inspire you and educate you, and who knows, maybe just from learning off them, you can do it yourself. Okay. So give that a go. And then if you need me, of course, I'm always here to help. My name is PK. Once again, this is Edmund Pang, who I'm super proud of. Thank you so much again, Edmund.
Thanks, Ego.
And thank you, everyone. Subscribe, hit the like button. I'll see you next time. See you later.